The majority of videos on like leadership TikTok or leadership algorithm, whatever, it's predominantly talking about shitty managers, shitty leaders, bad bosses, and the comment section is full of just thousands of people being like airing out their grievances.
So if you're a leader and you want a team that's honest, engaged, proactive, you have to be the first person who goes. You have to be a living example of what that looks like. Most leaders will find or believe that their value comes in the fact that they always have the answer. And I think a lot about superheroes or the great leaders of time that we've seen, which we all grew up as fans of some sort of Batman, Superman, like all of these Marvel comics, or we're familiar with the Elon Musks of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Jeff Bezoses. And a lot of times I think what we see is we see the triumph. We see the hero story. Like, oh, it looked like it was going to be bad, but it ended up good. Like, we always tend to see that arc of something happened, something came to light, and it never actually ended up as bad as we thought it could. And even if there were dim or gloomy moments, like the end of that story, typically with Superman, with Batman, with any of these characters, with high-level people, the end of that story always came with triumph or victory. I think about athletes a lot too. Like, we measure all of the best athletes in the world in their capacity to be leaders as did they win or create X outcome. And their repeated story or ability to create X outcome regardless of the circumstance is often the reason we believe they're great leaders. Like, to the point where if there's even a tiny mishap, we might justify it for them. But that's only if it's like an extreme case. But rarely do you think of leaders, like, and I think this is true in the workplace, rarely do people think of leaders and go to, oh, they won't figure it out, they won't make it happen, and the only things you will end up seeing is like the victory. I don't think a lot of the times we see in public light or in the light things that actually ended up going bad for the leader. We might see a glimmer or a moment of it, but we don't see the predominant fact that the majority of what is leadership tends to come with a lot of shit.
Yeah, I think that people love an underdog story. And I think the more intense that underdog story is, the more tolerance we have for people's mistakes. Like, we connect with it. We're able to see ourselves in it. When you talk about Superman or Batman, young kid, orphaned, lost his parents, lost everything, grew up, became a vigilante. And like, you feel the underdog story. And I think when you can connect to that, there's much more tolerance for people. When you remove that and you look at somebody who's in a leadership role, but maybe you don't see them as a leader, depending on how they show up, your tolerance for their mistakes, their shortcomings, where they don't show up and lead in the ways that you wish they would, is pretty much non-existent. Like, if we compare Batman to like a manager who's working somewhere in corporate, you don't see your manager who's in and like the underdog story of like how you came up, and then when that person makes mistakes, you just have no tolerance for it. And then I think it feeds into the narrative that you have to be perfect, you can't fail, there's no room for humanness. Man, even if you go on social media and you read the comment section of videos, the majority of videos on like leadership TikTok or leadership algorithm, whatever, it's predominantly talking about shitty managers, shitty leaders, bad bosses, and the comment section is full of just thousands of people being like airing out their grievances of how frustrated they are. So when you look at it through the lens of this is all the feedback, I'm seeing this, the perception is everybody hates their boss, everybody hates their manager. I think it also fuels that belief that I can't make mistakes. There's no room to be human. And you just feel really disconnected. I see a lot of people in the comment section of my videos saying everybody like shits on their manager, but like nobody thanks us for coming in to cover your shift or filling your shift or shuttling things around so you could pick up your kids from daycare, or you needed to get off an hour early. So I like swap schedules to be able to support you. So I think there's like two sides of it. they also just feel like greatly underappreciated in their role. So you can't fail. You have to show up and be perfect all the time, which becomes the core belief. And then what happens when you actually make a mistake or you feel that you're inadequate in your role or you're not able to truly help somebody?
I think the other thing too is many leaders early on will realize that I don't have all of the skills. I don't have all the tools. However, I need to look the part. And I think we get caught up in the perception. So we will fake it. It's the whole fake it till we make it, because there is no tolerance, no room for what you said, which is you can't fall short, because if you fall short, you're either exposed, you'll lose respect, people will stop believing that you can guide them in the right direction. Like there is fundamentally zero room for like the slightest blip. Like you have to be on all of the time. And for many people, because they become aware of it, and I think if they were to read your comment, if I was a leader and I was new and I was reading your comment sections, oh, this is a dark place. If you wanna see a dark place, just go into nuts. Actually, go to my comments too. Today's
You're
been
getting
I'm getting
slaughtered.
slaughtered, right? And then what you find, if I'm looking at it through the lens of it, I would be like, well, fuck. The majority of people are just so like, it's like this or fuck you. And I'm like, man, I wouldn't, in the average work environment, I wouldn't want anything to do with that. And if I were in that work environment, I either got to do one of two things. I got to be like the drill sergeant and fake it till I make it, or I got to be the suck up and fake it till I make it. Like there's no in between. If you were to read it, there's only two types of people that will show up or end up ultimately being in those environments. It won't be the person who wants to stand tall for what they believe they can be, because they're looking at a mountain that's fucking higher than Mount Everest.
Yeah, I think it also enters the role or like the world as well, where a lot of people who are in newer positions like that, nobody receives any training for conflict resolution,
Yeah.
how to deal with people, how to have difficult conversations. And you're responsible for managing so much, and the expectation of you is so high. Like I've personally been a manager before with quite a few people who reported to me in environments that weren't necessarily easy per se, and high stress, high staff turnover. Teams were exhausted, and the expectation that people have of you in that leadership role is like, meet all my needs, solve my problems, advocate for me. But the person you've put in that role has no skill set. They can't handle hard conversations. They don't know, and a lot of times they don't even have decision-making power. They're doing the best they can within the constraints that they have, while simultaneously having no training and thinking that they can't fuck anything up. Like what a terrible place to be. And probably for a level of pay that isn't even reasonable for the environment that you're putting that person in.
Yeah.
It would be more tolerable if you actually trained them and their job was less stressful and they didn't feel this like incessant pressure breathing down their neck. But I think it's ridiculous. And as somebody who was in a manager role, I never received training for that. I didn't know how to navigate like uncomfortable conversations with people. And the role that I was in at the time, it's like some of the mistakes, if I made them or I didn't do double checks on things, like people could have got seriously hurt or injured. And I remember also feeling frustrated in that environment, but then going outside of it to figure out like, how do you develop yourself? How do I get better at these skills? I remember reading leadership books, like in my car, trying to figure out
what the fuck to do.
Yeah, like how do I navigate this household that like is turning over staff every 3 months and nobody wants to stay here?
Yeah.
In an environment where like people don't even give a shit about actually developing your leadership skills.
Yeah. When you said you're like, I was a manager and you had to learn kind of on a whim. What I think is interesting, like looking back, every company I've ever worked at, I got lucky and ended up on the team with the good manager or like the good director or the good VP or the good executive. And I was also always, and I don't know whether I was at FedEx or I was at the software company or whatever, or at the bank. It's interesting because I was always in the environments where I got lucky. Always like one of the first things people would tell me, like new people that I would meet at all of these like corporate trainings that they said, oh my God, you work for this person. Like so good. I would then be told what goes on other teams. And I'm like, man, God must just be blessing me with like good management, because holy fuck, some of the things I hear are insane. But then I look at it and I was like, the person who was my manager right out of college, 10 plus years of experience. When I was at FedEx, 10 plus years of experience. And then I looked at the team that I was on too. And I think this played to my advantage. Everybody on the team had been there for a long time for the most part, minus a couple of us. Good, bad, or indifferent, I was around like the seasoned vet crew, right? Like even at FedEx, it was my team. Everybody had been pretty much at FedEx for fucking 30 years. I wasn't even 30 years old when I got to FedEx. Okay, so like you end up in these environments where, and I personally like very much relished in this aspect of it. I could pick people's brains, because one of the things that was happening at the company at the time was other teams, other environments was getting more youthful because they're older. The company was older, has been older. They were in old groupthink, and they were trying to make shifts in the department that I was working in. And I always found it so fascinating where it was like, the leadership skills in my group of people are fantastic. Where they fall a little short is like, you guys got to get into 2020. Got to get into 2018, 2019, 2020. You guys got to come into modern tech. Like we're still working in 2001 when it comes to the tech side of stuff. On the other teams, everybody's fucking in the modern world. But holy fuck, you got 27, 30, 34-year-olds just no fucking clue how to communicate or lead. And I'm like listening to people's stories. And as much as I think the team that I was on, all of the teams that I was on at the time were a little slow from a tech standpoint, or like getting with the modern world, the one thing I definitely appreciated was the fact that I never had to look around and be like, holy fuck, I don't have a clue what the hell is going on. But I think it actually helps me because it was very easy to delineate. Like what's yes, what's no. How do you communicate this? How do you communicate? Like I think there was never in any, at least post-college, I can't say this during college because Chipotle was its own beast, but I think what I saw was there is a right way to do these things. Now, whether or not everybody's up and with the times is a different story, but it's funny when you said that. I was like, I got lucky in that sense. I ended up with pretty solid people around me to like learn from.
I feel like I got technical skill training and then got training through watching a manager who was very passive aggressive.
Yeah.
And just people would walk into a room, or she would walk into a room and people would just like scurry like mice all over 100%. The place. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like your energy could just peel paint off a wall. And I remember watching her navigate, and staff did a lot for her, but it was because they feared her.
Yeah.
It wasn't because they respected her. And at that point, one of the responsibilities I had in my role was scheduling. And I could schedule faster than anybody in the entire company because everyone liked me.
Yeah.
So when they saw my name pop up on the house phone or on their cell phone, it was just like, oh, it's Nat. I'd crack a few jokes. We'd laugh. It'd be a good time. And then I was able to do whatever. But I remember learning what not to do simply from seeing other people who were in a similar role to me and how staff members or like team members responded to them.
I think you brought up a really important point, which is you quickly learned what not to do because you had perfect examples of what people were doing. And I can remember like going to like these employee orientations. Some of my favorite things is when corporate companies are like, we're going to have a 3-day HR training. And it's like, this is so terrible and so fucking stupid, but it's okay. Listening to people talk about who they worked for and how things were handled. And I'm like, my team on the East Coast is doing the exact same thing your team is doing in the South versus what the same team is doing in the West. Because the consulting department at FedEx was like split. Like it was basically, we're in charge of the Northeast accounts. You guys are in charge of the South. These people are Midwest. These people are West. And then this is like whatever. And I just remember, I was like, man, we all do the same fucking functions. Our teams basically do the same thing. The geography is different. And holy fuck, do we have such a different experience on how our jobs are being done. And I would listen and I'm like, you're scared to talk to your manager. I had like one of the things I loved is I could call my manager, but I have no fucking clue what's going on. I'm new and fucking stupid. I am not good at
I
this.
am new and stupid.
I am completely not good at this. I need your. I like don't know where do I go. What do I? And I never. One of the things that was great was she never in any way, like she'd always be like, "Hey, how can you do better?" She was never going to like, "Hey, you're not doing what you need to." I didn't come to her with half-assed questions, but I'd watch other people, and it's like, you work for a fucking drill sergeant, and I think there's something to be said for high standards and high accountability. But it's like some of the people who are in my HR trainings, they started the same time I did. The only difference is your manager just doesn't care. Your manager is talking to you like you've been at the company for 20 years. And so I can hear that you're not even communicating back what you need or how you feel. And I think that's another thing with management. Leaders will show up a certain way because they believe they're supposed to. But then what I think happens is the people you work for can feel that they're under a microscope or they can't fully express themselves. So they just assume you don't care. And over it doesn't even take that long, but over a long enough time horizon, you would realize that they're not actually telling you any of the truths about how they feel. And that's like very stifling, because then you end up with a team of people who are just going to say yes or say no, or just do what they need to not be completely torched for being human. And I don't think that breeds a culture. I don't think that breeds a collaborative culture, let alone one that can grow quickly.
What you were talking about earlier, where sometimes people show up and they lead as if it's a dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
It almost comes from a place of fear.
Yeah.
Fear of being weak, not respected. What if you second guess my authority?
Yep.
And then you come across as insensitive.
Yes.
And inhuman at times. Like you completely miss the point and you don't read the room. And then you don't develop the soft skills. And I think it's like rooted in the fear of, I don't want to lose respect. And like you hear stupid quotes on the internet, which also feeds into this, where it's like, I would rather be feared than whatever. I can't even remember the quote. That's how stupid I think it is. But like people have posted stuff. I'd rather be feared than loved.
I've seen so many stupid things. I'd rather be. No.
Yeah. Like I would rather my team fear me and respect me than love me.
That's not respect, though. That's the thing. There's nothing about respect that is tied to fear. Mm-hmm. I think I hear the quote in sports where like you should have an appropriate fear of your opponent, and I think there's some value to that perspective, but that's not the same thing as respect. That's the lens of like humility of like you don't have the answers and you don't know, so like have an appropriate fear, but that's not through the lens of respect. When I hear people be like, I'd rather be feared, I'm like, what is wrong with you? The fuck is going through your head? I'd rather be feared, and just yelling at the top of their lungs. Like there's nothing tasteful about that in leadership.
But if they took all the armor off, they would just melt on the floor. Like that doesn't come from like it doesn't come from truth. You're full of shit. And it's like a mask for so many other things. But again, coming back to people don't want to be seen as weak. So their behavior shows up in ways that is like counterproductive to what they're looking to do. People hate feeling inadequate, and they hate feeling like they're not smart enough or good enough, or they don't understand. And I think it's like, I think back to school and you have a class full of people. You got 30, 40 kids in a classroom. Teacher presents a concept, goes over something. Does anybody here have any questions? Nobody raises their hand. Bullshit. You just learned a brand new thing over the last 30 minutes. You've never done it before. This is the very first time you're hearing about it, and you refuse to ask any questions. Why? Because you don't want to be the one that raises your hand in front of a room of 40 people and says, I don't understand what the fuck you just said. Mm-hmm. And then you don't ask, and then you don't learn. And then you start copying the person's exam to the right-hand side of you because, like, you never learned the thing. And it almost feels exposing to bring that up. And when you look at that in management or leadership type roles, it's like if you don't have the answer or you don't feel confident in your role or the ability to make that decision, like it shows up in your behavior, whether you start micromanaging somebody, hovering over their work. You give answers that maybe aren't fully thought out. You're reactive instead of proactive. You just immediately give what you think is the best answer to like shuttle something along, but it has a negative downstream impact to doing that. And you're almost unwilling to raise your hand and ask for help from somebody who is more equipped or more experienced than you because, well, I should know this. And you will judge me if I don't.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? The things you're talking about, there's such a silent killer of thoughts and behaviors that happen that people don't even realize. It's like the person who thinks I should know this, therefore I shouldn't ask for help. The person who is also the dictator who's like, this is how it goes. There's silent transactions that you're making in the environment you're in. And I think that's the part a lot of leaders miss is every single behavior, every single decision you make, there are often very silent transactions, hidden transactions for a better term, that you are also making that may not manifest. I hate that word sometimes, but like you may not realize are manifesting or festering in the environment you're in. If you're not willing to say, hey, I don't have this answer and go seek the help, you're actively digging your own ditch. If you're then also not willing to open a space for vulnerability and instead of being a dictator, be a servant of the people you work for, you're just going to have, what are your employees going to do? What's your team going to do? They're going to have these silent beliefs of, you don't care. I can't come to you. I can't communicate with you. Why would I even say this? Like there's a bunch of silent stories that start to pile up. And then you realize you're under this mountain of silence that usually has the loudest explosion.
What you were saying triggered a thought where how you show up. It's like you don't ask for help or you say, hey, like, I don't know. I think that also teaches your team to be like, have this unreasonable standard and expectation of themselves that they should always have the answer. So
Yes.
what if they don't? And now will you come and have that conversation with somebody to get a better answer, talk through something? No, because the person that you look up to or is in that leadership role doesn't ever admit that they're human and don't have it all figured out, which I think adds a layer of pressure. Like there's the one point where it's like, oh, this person doesn't care about me. But there's also the other aspect of like, what if I love this person and I really enjoy working for them and like their energy and their passion and like you're totally bought in, but you also develop patterns of behavior that don't serve because of the way that person answers questions or always gives an immediate answer or never demonstrates a moment of humanness. I remember being in a conversation with somebody one point, and I can't remember like the exact moment and like what all of the like influencing things were about it, but I remember having a conversation with somebody who worked for us. And I made a comment, we were like going through something, and I watched their eyes kind of glaze over in a conversation. And I was like, do you understand what I'm talking about right now? And I just kind of saw the look of like, holy fuck, are you really asking me this right now? And I was like, it's okay to give me an honest answer. Are you unwilling to answer that question because you think you should already know this by now? And she was like, yes. And I was like, amazing. We can work through that. But if I didn't pick up on
Sure.
body language that you just completely shut down, I'm not here to crucify you. I'm just, do you understand what I'm talking about? It's like, holy fuck, deer in the headlights. Like, want the floor to open up and swallow you whole because you don't want to be called out.
Yeah.
And the only way to humanize that moment is just like to call out the thing in the room. And I think a lot of times it's like exactly those words. Do you feel you should already know this by now? Yes.
100%.
Okay. But you don't, and that's okay. We can train you and make it better. But like, if your belief is, I have to be right, I can't fail, there's no room for me to be human, I think that shows up in every single level, and then our behaviors map to it. And it's like, well, holy fuck, you're not getting the result and the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah.
But you are also unwilling to raise your hand and say, like, I need help and support with this.
We are really good as people at shoulding our way through every aspect of our life. And I think you see it most in leadership positions. And I think that then trickles into your team dynamics, right? I should know this. It's probably what a leader says. the people on your team probably are going to mirror that back to you at some point in some way. Like you said, it's like you probably have had the moment where you're like, oh, I should be able to explain this. And then the person coming back to you has the same should of, oh, I should know this.
Yeah, I also find it interesting that a lot of people are like, I should know this by now. Like there's a time constraint based on how long I've been in the position, how long I've been doing this. Like I should know this by now. And then you have the other camp that just has such unreasonable expectations of where their skill set should be based on how long they've been in the role. It's like, oh, I should know this by now and I should be great at it. And it's like, bro, you're like 2 weeks into a brand new role that you've never done before with no previous experience whatsoever. Your expectation of yourself is like absolutely ridiculous.
Insane. Yeah. That's coming from the person who's probably got this craziest expectations of herself.
Disagree. Next question.
Next question.
Next.
Yeah, okay, next. How do you change it? How do we get out of this leadership loop of I either need to fake it till I make it, I either need to be a dictator, or I need to be everybody's favorite to some degree? Because I think that's another one that people don't realize is like if you don't go to one extreme, you go to the other one, and then you basically become the pacifier. And I don't think we don't have to go too in depth on that one, but most people don't find that to be the most enjoyable leadership experience to begin with. So how do you change it?
Well, I think with anything in life, you have to decide that you want to.
That's a reasonable assessment.
Like step one, do you actually want to create change? Because it's like the person who says, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, but do you actually, or are you just saying that because it's the time of the year, you don't like that summer's coming up, or it's like New Year's resolution, and you think that this is what you should be doing? Because if you genuinely don't care to change it, then like nothing we say afterwards matters. So I think number one, do you actually want to change it? And I guess with most things in life, it's like, well, why would I change this? We only change to gain pleasure and avoid pain. So what maybe a better starting place is, what is the benefit of changing this? Like, what is the actual ROI to changing that behavior for somebody? I think number one, your team probably genuinely trusts you and respects you. You respect yourself. When you are living a lie constantly and just making shit up as you go, you're just in such a high state of uncertainty all the time. You don't trust yourself. You feel like you're all over the place. You feel like you're walking on eggshells with your own behavior because you're making decisions that you're not fully confident in. What if it comes back and bites you in the ass? So I think the biggest ROI to doing it is like a sense of peace that you can't buy. I also think it's a lot easier to go through the world being like, hey, this is where I fell short. And it alleviates pressure off of yourself to be perfect. I don't know. Thoughts?
I think wanting to change is an important step. I think making the change makes it, like what you said, I think it kind of removes the pressure, because I think a lot of times you are self-inflicting the idea of pressure by not actually addressing the elephants in the room, for lack of a better term. I think the big thing with making a change is there is a level of responsibility that comes with change, that what you are seeking around you, you must first be. You can't ask anybody for something that you don't offer or you don't give. So if you're a leader and you want a team that's honest, engaged, proactive, you have to be the first person who goes. You have to be a living example of what that looks like. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect about it. It means you need to demonstrate it and be also able to communicate where either you fell short or you could have done or have the opportunity to do better when you practice those things. Because I don't think any leader, in being honest, is going to be honest in the kindest way initially, right? I think there's a learning curve with anything you want, right? Like if the first time, and I've seen this with many leaders, they're like, I want to be more honest. Like, cool, then just tell the truth. Well, you told the truth, but you kind of cut their throat out on the way to telling them the truth. So part of it too, as a leader, is you go first and you openly take responsibility for the way you show up as you do it. You can demonstrate that these are the things I want. And when you fall short in doing those things in a healthy manner to the culture you're looking to create, own it. I find for a lot of people, I've talked to different leaders and they'll be like, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. And I'm like, awesome. Identify what that looks like, then go be it, then go do it. And they're like, well, this person quit. I'm like, yeah, because you were an asshole. And you didn't own that you were being an asshole. So when you are being an asshole, even if it wasn't intentional, for lack of a better term, it's your opportunity to own, hey, where could I have been better for you? I think as a leader, asking when you communicate what you are looking for and how you're looking to show up, how you can be better for the people you are looking to lead and serve is one of the most powerful ways to become a better leader. Because then they will not see it as like, hey, it's you and then I. They will see that we are on the same playing field and you are just looking to help us lead into a specific direction. And then you create a culture where people don't feel afraid to share how they actually feel, which then leads them to mirror or replicate exactly what it is that you're looking for.
I got one hell of a story to share.
This will be good.
It's a good one when it comes to this is where I fell short. Here's your framework on how to deal with anything. The story is going to put hair on your chest. Okay. So, TVAC is a shit show. Super chaotic. This was like before it actually got restructured. This would have been, I don't know. I can't remember the exact timeline, but like it must have been at least 5 or 6 months.
Are we talking about the Zoom call?
No.
To the phone
We're
call?
talking about something
Different.
else.
Oh,
This
okay.
is worse. This is so much worse.
I'll be able to tell you.
It's probably like 6 to 7 months prior to actually creating the change. So I could see we had cash flow issues. I could see that the team was bloated. We had too many people in roles. The roles weren't effective. And it was just a shit show. It was like, we're bleeding money. Our costs are too high. We're not profitable. I need to do something. If I do not make a decision, no one's going to have a job. So I sat down. I created a board and I was trying to figure out, okay, who on the team has a skill set that like I can't immediately replace. And I was looking through like who is truly skilled, who is maybe doing roles that somebody else could do. And I was trying to figure out like how to downsize the team and figure out like who is the best seat to keep on the bus, because right now we have way too many people and this place is ineffective and we are like bleeding money every month. So I lay this all out and I'm trying to figure it out. I don't tell the team because I haven't made any decisions yet. I'm in the figuring out of like, how the fuck do I fix this place with like a deep care and reverence to, I don't want to lay people off.
Yeah.
So I mapped this all out. It's in this board. I did not know that somebody on the team had access to my account because she had needed to sign into this software that we were using to set something up for training. Totally forgot, probably had my passwords from like 2 or 3 months prior. I build out this board in there. I'm trying to figure out who stays, who's goes. And I'm pretty sure one of the columns said like people to keep. And the other column said
You to go.
basically like restructure, like re-find a role for or let go. Like there was no in between. If you saw the 2 columns, you were like, I either...
Clear as day.
Yeah, job secure, I'm getting fired. Anyways, this chick signs into my account, sees it on a Sunday. We roll into Monday. I get a text from the team and they go, the whole training department's gone. Oh, what do you mean the whole training department's gone? We had 3 trainers. 2 of them quit because one of them saw the board and saw her name was on the list and in the bucket of people who are going to get fired. And they deleted 2 years worth of data out of the company, wiped out everything that we had created for the training department and all of our recruitment stuff. And we had 30 people who were waiting to come in for training. And I get this message and it's like 8:30 and training starts at 9 in the morning. It's a fucking shit show. They quit, delete everything. The team's like, they're gone. Then they start messaging the people on the team saying, Nat's going to dissolve the company, get out now, quit. They start messaging everybody who worked at all levels of the company. Wasn't even just operations team. I was like, holy fuck. Okay, tell the trainees that we got to push this back 2 days. Tech malfunction. We'll reset up training. We'll extend it. Dealt with that to like buy us 48 hours. Get all the team on a call. And I was like, cat's out of the bag. Here's the board.
What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah. She's not wrong. What she's telling you. This is what's going on in the business. I didn't want to have this conversation with you this way. It was my bad for putting this here. I didn't know that she had access to this. We're going to go through it line by line. This is why you're in this bucket. This is why you're in this bucket. I just aired it out on this group team call. I think there was like 18 people on the call, and like 3/4 of them were bawling at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, there's the only thing you can do is own what the fuck just happened. I'm not going to bullshit you. There's no way of like spinning this any other way than like, yeah, 100%. That is accurate. This board exists. This is the problems in the company. This is what I'm looking to do. I did not have this conversation with any of you because I had made no final decisions on what to do. And I also understand that there is like an offer issue here and other things that are going on. And it's not just this. So this is what's up. This is what I'm doing. I can't promise you that by the end of this week that you will still have a job because I still have to make these decisions. My inbox is open for the next 30 minutes. If you want to put in your resignation, send me an email. If not, I will assume you still want to work here and we will carry on. Any questions? And like, just had to fucking handle it. Nobody quit. When at least half of them should have. Or it would have been absolutely reasonable if they did. And nobody quit. And I think the only reason that they didn't quit is because I took full responsibility and I didn't bullshit them and I answered every question and was just like, this is what's going on. That moment fundamentally changed me for the rest of my life.
How long was this before everything had unfolded?
Probably 6 or 7 months.
So this was like right when I met you then.
No, it would have been maybe before.
I met you in October of 21, and then I started.
Man, so much shit happened here that I don't even remember the timelines. I would have been in Edmonton, so you wouldn't have met me. Maybe it was like almost a year prior to that.
It was still 2020 then. It's still like early.
It was like 2021. But regardless, like that was a moment of the only way out is through. And I remember thinking through all of that. I was just like, the pieces are going to fall where they may, and it's going to burn. And when it's done burning, I will take a look at the fucking wreckage that is left over, and I will figure out what to do with it. Because it was like 30 people in training, like so much uncertainty on the team. So. Like, holy fuck. Talk about just throwing a grenade into anybody's like security and safety on the team. The business was not set up to lose potentially like half the fucking team if everybody quit. We had, I think at that point, like 100+ people working in the setter role. Gong show. Then I got on a group call with everybody in the company once I talked to like the operations team. And I was like, this is what's happening. This is why this happened. You're probably going to receive a message that says this. Do with it what you will. My inbox will be open for 48 hours. At the end of 48 hours, we're not talking about this. So if you got something to say and something to ask me, you got 48 hours and this is done. And I'm moving forward. And I got a ton of messages and they were like, can we volunteer to help rebuild? And I was like, this is fucking wild. I ended up getting 34 volunteers to help rebuild this training department. I was like, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm just trying to do the best I can with what I got. This is where I fell short. That's what I can tell you. Also, heads up, we'll have to push payroll out by 30 days. Like, what a fucking gong show.
Are you in? You still in?
You let me know. Work? Yeah. You getting off the boat or are you going to stay on? Fun fact for anybody listening, there are still people to this day on our team that were on that group call that still work for us. And they never quit. Probably at least 4. Or 5 of the people who are still on our core team experienced that moment and never left. And I can assure you they've been through
hell.
Many other difficult things.
That was probably water under the bridge as we've gone through some of the things we've gone through.
I don't think that any of them would have stayed, though, without the...
I think there's what we said, the transparency.
This is where I fell short.
Yeah. Being super honest and then owning where you fell short. And then the other thing you said, which was questions. What do you want to air out? Like, go ahead, go right the fuck ahead.
Yeah, I got nothing to hide. What you want to know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think something I'll share and then we can like carry it forward from here. Once you do something like that, I think something that helps you in it, it's like, man, the pieces are going to fall where they may. You can do the best you can to handle that and just be honest, transparent, take full responsibility. This is where I fell short. I apologize for that and what you guys are experiencing. It was not my intention. I also understand that I cannot change the way you feel. This is what I'm going to do moving forward, and then have your change of behavior actually back that up. But like the perspective for me was like, what's going to burn is going to burn.
Yep.
The people who are going to leave are going to leave. The people who will talk shit about me on social media, don't talk shit about me on social media. Like, let the wreckage fall, see what's left, and then make a decision with what you are going to do moving forward. And when you adopt that perspective, those moments are so much easier because you're like, well, we're just going to shake out the fucking brush fall heel and keep moving forward. Because what's the alternative? Because if you're paralyzed by, what if they judge me? What if they leave? Yeah, they might. It's very real when you actually make a poor decision that a lot of people have a negative experience with. But like, man, what's going to happen is going to happen. You will be okay. You will never make that mistake twice. You will actually avoid a lot of mistakes in the future when you learn those lessons. And like, it's not the end of the world. And you'll be better off for it. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh God, I fell short because I didn't do somebody's evaluation, at least you didn't create a list of a group of people that you were going to fire or keep.
Leaked,
and then have to...
Leaked memo. You're all getting fucking
And then
sacked.
have to talk to like 100+ people about it and be like...
Yeah. We had to let go of someone in one of my previous businesses. And I remember having a conversation with her after we let her go. And I was like, I remember she was like, I'm not upset with you. I just didn't understand the dynamic. And I remember after the fact, and I think one thing I learned early on is good, bad, or indifferent, build like real relationships with the people you work with. It doesn't mean that everybody's your best friend or, you know, you're going to go to dinner with them and all that, but build real relationships with them. And I remember her saying, I'm not upset at you for the decision that you had to make because that's what was right for the business. And I was like, okay. And I've had that happen twice where people that contributed meaningfully and did good work, just the nature of the situation in the business did not play out how we were aiming for. I just remember from those very specific instances, the common theme was, I'm not mad at you for doing what you had to do for the business. And in hindsight, amidst a lot of the mistakes we made, one thing that always told me was, because you've been transparent, as much as maybe things felt blindsided to a degree or not what anybody hoped for, I don't think that those people hoped to not be a part of the teams that we were building. It buys you a lot of grace with people, even when things don't go well. And that, again, in both the experiences where that was the identical statement, I didn't anticipate like the next day we're going to be talking and buddy, but I think there was something in hindsight that I was reminded that I was like, oh, we can have a healthy conversation about this. And it's only because what was true the entire time and during was also true after too. There wasn't a facade. And I've been on the uncomfortable side of like, you had to let someone go after being transparent with them for an extended period of time. And I can tell you, the people, it's inevitable that even as a leader, being transparent and honest and kind and being willing to take feedback, there are going to be people along the way that do not respect or appreciate it, or they have their own shit to work through still. And so they will come and go through your life. They might hate you after, and that's just how the cards roll. You will also find that there will be people along the way who can respect it. They may not agree with it, but they will be able to respect it.
Yeah, I agree. I've had multiple experiences like that. I've had the ones where it's like, fuck you.
Yeah, 100%.
Forever. And regardless.
I've had the version of this that's probably created the highest stomach for uncertainty, which is I've been consistent and then been told fuck you. And I it's funny. This is something I said to you when I first met you, and I think it was influenced both by my personal life, but by my business. But what did I tell you? I love you, and if tomorrow it's fuck you and get out of my life, it doesn't change my love for you. And I think a lot of that was molded by very specific life and business experiences where I was like, I can only be consistent and accept that I'm not going to be perfect and I have opportunity to be better, and I'm going to just continually communicate that. And if someone doesn't appreciate that, accept that, whatever, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you're younger and earlier in your management or leadership career, part of what you will have to learn is that not everybody is inherently going to like you. That doesn't mean you have to be a dick. That also doesn't mean don't stay true to who you say you are. And show up as the person you're meant to be.
Yeah. Man, having PTSD flashbacks to the last couple of years.
It's strong.
PTSD is strong here. Man, that's my best piece of advice to somebody who feels like they're falling short or is just like trying to like cram themselves into a box of perfection. Be honest. Tell the truth. You are going to fall short. People will respect you more if you own it. And you can just take responsibility for it.
Yep.
And then actually change your behavior moving forward.
Yes.
I think the more transparent you are, the easier it is for people to trust you. You got nothing to hide. And if they leave, they leave. And if it changes the relationship, it changes the relationship. The only thing you can do is like monitor how you show up and then course correct and improve and be like, yeah, we could have made that one 5% better.
Yep.
How I delivered it, I will do better next time. Or I would like to never get to the point of this conversation again. So how do I anticipate all of the things that I need to deal with that stop me from having to get to this moment with somebody? I think when you come from that place, it's a lot easier. And then reiterating what I said, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
100%.
The pieces will fall where they may. You can look at it and then figure out which ones do I want to pick back up? Which ones do I want to keep? Take a fucking 2x4 to the face and you just keep moving forward, and eventually it just doesn't feel so goddamn difficult anymore.
You get used to it.
Yeah. You have a different perspective of it too. And I think, as you said, when you are consistent with showing up that way, you're like, I'm probably going to fall short and it's not always going to be perfect, and I'm okay with that. And I've proven enough times that I have gone through this that the world didn't end and things turned out pretty all right, even if it was
100%.
very rocky and wild for a short duration of time. 100%. That's all I got. And like, don't write stupid shit in documents that other people can see.
Yeah.
Ever since that moment, notepad. I'm like, oh, I gotta dump out some thoughts that no one should see. Notepad through the fucking paper shredder. So there's no evidence.
Think it through.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, join the huddle, and we'll see you next time.